Are you stuck? How about unhappy? Join Elena Chapman, author, mentor, and life coach for Magical Moments with Elena as she challenges you to get out of the doldrum and start living your life to the fullest. In just 60 minutes, Elena will help you take control of your life and push you to do the things you never thought you'd do. So get ready to take back your power and celebrate life with Magical Moments featuring Elena Chapman.
Welcome to Magical Moments, and I am your host, Elena Chapman, and we are all about that ease and betterment in our lives, aren't we? And that's why we have this show, because we want that ease and betterment and all the wonderful nuggets and information we gain. All right, so today I do have a magical nugget for you. And this one's an interesting one because it's going to lift the roof off a very popular concept, something that we as Americans in general, I don't know about the world, but I do know America, we are very big in our competitive nature. And in this magical nugget, I'd like to talk about that a little bit, because anything that gives us ease and betterment is wonderful. Anything that doesn't, why? Why do we want it? So when I was younger, I was very big into archery, and I loved to, I was a singer. I did a lot of stuff that would have been very competitive. I did have a competitive nature, actually, a limited. I mean, if I was good at it, I was competitive. If I wasn't good at it, why waste my time, right? Well, even then, I learned quickly by the time I was in my 20s that it really didn't matter, and I could make myself sick trying to compete. It just seemed like, why? It didn't mean that I stopped what I was doing, and it didn't mean that I didn't try to improve all the time. Competitiveness does not mean that we don't grow and do the best in our talents and to do our very best and allow ourselves to grow at the rate we're wanting to grow, or what we feel is good for us to grow, and just feeling good about ourselves. And that's why I want to talk about competitiveness, because competitiveness has gotten into all of our lives. And competitiveness comes in sneaky ways, in our business, in our personal life. And we feel like if we don't win, we feel affronted. We put ourselves down. We beat ourselves up. And it's the funniest thing. It can be the silliest little competition. Nobody knows it's a competition but you, because you have made it so. And you know what I mean. You know. Sometimes I remember when I was a younger mother, and my kids were little, and some of the moms would compete when we were all volunteering to do something. Who would bring in the best little brownies or whatever, or the cookies, or who was the best mom and had her kid just all dressed up so cute. And I'm not saying we don't dress our kids up cute, but what's the motive behind it? If it's to really just have a lot of fun with our kids and being creative, that's what life is about. Competitiveness is different. It's a totally different road, and it takes out why we're here. It takes away the fun of the growth, the fun of the acceptance of oneself, and just enjoying the moment. Because you're never good enough. That's why you're competing. You're never good enough. When you remove the competitiveness, at first you go into shock. And then you start saying, well, I'll grow at my time. Comes an acceptance of yourself. Your kids start to thrive because they don't feel that competitive edge in you. Instead, they have a mom who just really cares about them, loves them, and the experiences of fun and creating instead of trying to be better. Same thing on our job. You're working with a team and you're on that competitive edge. Everybody's tense and, oh my gosh, it's just so hard. But if you let go of the competitive edge and you're just making the best darn product that you can possibly make, then everybody's creative juices are free to start thinking and creating. Competitiveness is not needed to be your very best. In fact, it's counterintuitive. And it's when we let go of it, that's when our life can come alive. So don't punish yourself if you're competitive. Just think, is there a better way of doing this? Let me try just a few minutes today and really not be competitive. Instead, just allow myself to grow. Whatever business I'm in, whatever relationship I'm in, I'm not going to be competitive about it. I'm not going to try to make mine better than anybody else's. I'm just going to make mine the very best that I can with my own creativity and who I am. I bet you'll have a heck of a lot more fun. That's our magical nugget for today. And we have an exciting show for you. And really, this is kind of right up the alley in some ways. My guest is Katherine Wintsch, and she is CEO and founder of the Mom Complex. Oh my gosh, the Mom Complex. With 3 boys, I definitely know that. Katherine helps the largest companies in the world, such as Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, and Wells Fargo, better support their moms, customers, and employees. In her latest venture, Katherine combines 10 plus years of groundbreaking research with her own personal journey in the popular book called Slay Like a Mother. I love that. And Parade Magazine also did and recently named it one of the top 10 life-challenging self-help books of the year. Katherine is sought after with her research and has been featured on the Today Show and the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and Working Mother magazine. And with that, I would like to bring on Katherine Wintsch. Hello, hon.
Hi, thanks for having me, Elena.
I am so happy to have you. How are you today?
I'm good.
Oh, good.
Wow.
Yeah. So, my dear, how does that competitiveness come into the part of being a mom?
Yeah, I loved what you said about competitiveness, and it really rings true for me just personally. For 20 years of my life, I was from age 15 to 35 so competitive. So I didn't feel good enough about myself on the inside. And so I had to be seen as more than enough on the outside.
Yeah.
In order to just keep going. And I was so competitive and, just collecting titles and trophies in my career. And even when it came to motherhood, wanting to look so perfect. And as you said, it's just no way to live. It's so exhausting.
It is very exhausting, isn't it? And it hurts everybody around you, really, because you're striving for this impossible thing. And, well, let's face it, competitiveness is all based on I am the best, you are not. That's
right.
What it really is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the people around you, you're exactly right. The people around you do feel your energy and pick up on it.
Oh, quickly. Any group that you're in. And it's not welcome because nobody likes to feel like second fiddle.
Oh.
Yeah, and it is really, competitiveness. Don't you feel that it does kind of hurt the whole experience with your kids too, and your partner in life and.
Yeah, I can give you an example from my previous life when I was living with what I refer to as this dragon of self-doubt inside of me for 20 years, and the way it manifested in my life of my children knowing was that, I was working overtime. I was working 80 hours a week, trying to prove myself at work. I was traveling all the time, shell of a human being.
Yes.
And my son or my daughter would say, oh, you have to get on an airplane again. And I was like, I know, it sucks, and I didn't want to go. And, that was my energy. Well, fast forward, I slayed this dragon of self-doubt. I started my own company. My life is my own now. And so now if I were to travel for work, I would say to my kids, listen to where I'm going and what I'm doing. And it's so powerful and I'm helping people. And it's a different energy when you're not trying to always compete and therefore feeling like a loser a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is feeling like a loser a lot. You touched on something. It is that basis that I am not enough, isn't it? I have to prove how wonderful I am because I am not enough.
Yeah, we have to get our love and compassion and, self-worth from somewhere. It has to come from somewhere. And if it's not inside of you and you don't like yourself or love yourself, then, it's going to show up in every area of your life. And that's where we're, trying to compete, trying to win. But what's interesting is if you lead a very externally focused life like that, the highs are never enough. The wins are never enough.
Now that's big. Why? Why are not
senior vice? Because it's coming from the outside. It can't really fulfill you, and so you become that senior vice president that you always wanted to be. You have that third child you always wanted to have. Whatever it is in your life that you had your sight set on, and then you achieve it, and you're proud of yourself for 8 days.
Yeah. So
then it's like, what's next?
What's next? It's like buying the sweater at the store. It's not enough.
It's not enough because you're not enough.
Because you're not enough. I know you actually, I find that when you're competitive, no matter what you do, you can't stop. And so you may win the award, but then you look at this person and you think, oh, but they won that award. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Nothing is good enough.
Everybody's always better. And we compare other people at their best to us at our worst. So we see, another woman doing something and we, think that we're a trash fire,
That's so interesting. So when we are dealing with our kids, they pick up on this too, totally, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I think
I used to see it,
like you said, and that your daughter sees the way you look in the mirror. And if you are yelling at yourself all the time, come on, and giving yourself a hard time, your children can pick up on, whether you like yourself, whether you love yourself, whether you make time for yourself. I always say that saying no to my children may be painful for them right now, but especially my daughter, I'm teaching her to say no to other people and yes to herself,
Yes.
And so they need to learn, like, especially women and young girls, like, we have to learn that we are worth our own time and we can take time for ourselves and we can practice self-care. And it's not selfish. We just have to, get rid of that belief.
And I think when we're with our kids, as a mom, that's where we feel the most pressure. You know what I mean? When we get into a family, and there's a lot of pressure being a mom, if you allow it to be. Being the mom who is... I look back at my years with the 3 boys, and I don't know what people thought of me as a mom. I'll tell one funny story. Oh gosh, so people said, my kids are flexible, self-sufficient, comfortable in their own shoes, really just have fun with life, attaining their goals. I mean, I've raised kids with, it's amazing they got through everything. But I remember one time, everybody was on my case about this. I actually thought it was really funny. And because I laughed, my son laughed and could deal with it. But I remember that one day we got the days mixed up. It was pajama day. And all the kids, this was in 4th grade, I think, and they were all going to wear their pajamas to school. Well, I mixed up the days. So my kid went to school with his pajamas on. Now, the teachers were like, oh my gosh, they were the embarrassment for him. But my kid was chill, And,
right.
and so when they told me, I started to laugh. Not that I just thought it was funny, how dare I? But I wasn't trying to meet any, oh my gosh, my kid is not perfect. And I went to the school and brought him clothes and went in and I said, are you okay, honey? And he started laughing. He goes, yeah, Mom, it's okay. It was a great conversation.
Right.
I think that we set the precedent for how those little incidents. See, if I was competitive, oh my God, I am not the perfect mom. Oh, I can't believe I would put my kid. What are people going to think? What? Oh my gosh, I'm a terrible, terrible mom. Do you see the route I could have gone?
Right. Yeah, I think it all comes down to our expectations for ourselves. And, one of the things I often talk about is there's a difference between expectations that are high and expectations that are too high. So you can have high expectations that you want to raise a happy, healthy, human being. But we get into superhero land, when we think that we should never make mistakes and nothing can slip through the cracks and we always have to have our best foot forward and we should know how to parent during a pandemic, even though we've never done it before. I mean, it all begins with what your expectations are. And so for anybody listening, I mean, it's expect this time in life to be hard. Whenever you're going through something new, write down 3 things that are new to you in your life. And you need to expect to make mistakes there.
And the mistakes are where we learn.
Right.
I mean, even that one where we wore the pajamas, that was for my oldest son. What does he do now? He doesn't care. He does not care. What he cares about is how well he's growing in his field. He's now in optics and physics, for heaven's sakes. He's learning and growing phenomenally. He's well in demand, all because, and he's also become a really good observer of life. Now, I can't say, wouldn't that be great? I can just what do you breathe on your fingers and you do the little ha ha ha, I'm a professional. No, I think because the example was I wasn't trying to be perfect, but I was trying to be the best I could be, or with a little bit of fun dashed right in there. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they could see that we were in it together. That's a big word. When you let go of that, I'm so perfect, you're alone in that field. But when you open it up and you can laugh and you can make the mistakes and you can grow together and you can learn together and you can offer a little bit of wisdom, whatever you have at that point in time, to help them grow. You teach them how to deal with mistakes and when things don't happen, and that's okay. Do you see what I'm saying? I think you can't grow kids thinking that life has to be so perfect because, oh my gosh, that's not where we learn, No.
And I think with the competitiveness, I'm a very competitive person. And so, but what I've learned is that I can compartmentalize my competitiveness. Meaning before in my life, I was competitive about everything. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be seen as the best. I was hustling really hard, in order to be loved, looking for self-worth and
that sounds so
external
sad.
things. And so but I learned to compartmentalize my competitiveness. So for example, as you mentioned, I'm the CEO of a company, the Mom Complex. We're a consulting company, and we are competitive as all get out. We are the best at what we do. We're helping to support mothers all over the country, but that's a good, healthy place for me to be competitive,
Yeah, of course it is.
It doesn't cause me to overwork. It doesn't like it used to, where when I no longer work 80 hours a week, but then I'm no longer competitive when it comes to motherhood, and I'm no longer competitive about always have to be seen as being better or advancing, that I can just be. And so I think it's neat to have an outlet for that competitiveness, of course.
And if you're very competitive. But I think it's the reason behind the competitiveness that's the biggest. If you're trying to do the competitiveness for self-worth, if you're trying to do it because you don't feel enough inside, and you're doing it because you're always searching, well, then it's going to be a hard road, and it's not such a good road, and it's a closed world. But if you're competitive in a way of there's a universal law, and that's the law of compensation about business. It's always about the very third, there's 3 points to it. And the third point is what makes you irreplaceable. And that's what makes a business go. So is that competitive, or is that just doing the extremely best you can do to bring the best of your uniqueness and your services forward? And I think what is wrong with that? Because then you're living your purpose to the highest extent, and you are succeeding at an incredible rate because you're unique to yourself. It's, when we're competitive, we're always looking at the outside at what someone else is doing. When we're not competitive, we're looking at the inside and what our gifts are and what we can really bring forward and bring to the best of the table. I wonder if you just redirected your competitiveness to something healthier.
Well, I never thought about this before, but listening to you say that, it's pretty stunning. So I used to play tennis many years ago. I just picked it up. I wasn't that great.
Yeah, me too.
I was very competitive. And so it's almost like that was very others focused. I was trying to beat someone else. It was very kind of externally focused, and it made me uncomfortable. Like, it just made me feel like I needed to be working harder at tennis than I really wanted to, you know?
I do know.
But I dropped tennis, and now I do a lot of cycling. And so that's more just internal. And, like, it's just me and the road. And I'm not trying to beat anybody. I'm not trying to be better than anybody. And it does give me a different energy. And I never thought about it before you said that. If that's kind of a shift. I'm still competitive in it, that I want to be better and get better, but it's not externally focused.
Ah, isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's really interesting.
So, I mean, and I do think it kind of goes into so many areas of our life. The competitive nature, it seeps in. Like, one of the thing is, you wanted to, I noticed in one of your comments, you love to talk about the struggle versus the suffering. And when you're competitive and you're struggling, you're comparing yourself to everybody out there. So your mind is not even on the struggle. And then you go into the suffering mode. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you can't be. Or why don't you explain that a little bit more? I'm explaining your topic. How silly. You go ahead.
No. You nailed it. So I'm a researcher by trade. I've studied over 10,000 women around the world, and what I've observed is the difference between struggling and suffering. So struggling is brought on by, like you said, the external forces in our life. So figuring out what to make, for your family, 3 meals a day, living through a breast cancer diagnosis, trying to homeschool your children. Those are all struggles. And we're always going to struggle. We're always going to have struggles, and you can't move your way out of them, buy your way out of them, grow your way out of them. But we suffer when we beat ourselves up for having those struggles in the first place, or for believing we should be handling them better, And so that's
better.
Really
what in the heck is better? You know what I mean? Better, you do the best you can, and you learn from it, and then you grow from it, and then it naturally becomes better. But to beat yourself up about being better, that's so silly. Just do it.
The competitiveness in us ends up as women and mothers. We end up taking the very best of like 10 different mothers we know. We want to keep our house clean like Karen, and we want to do this like blah, blah, blah. We want to do this like something. And that's what we end up competing with. At the end of the day, it's not just one person. It's kind of this uber woman.
Do we realize how awful we turn into? If we, I know that. I know that feeling because, I was in a marriage where, we had people, we were entertaining, 3 young boys, and I'm going, we got to vacuum. We got to do this. We got to do that. And the stress, and the kids feel it, and the whole house feels it, and everything goes up a level, and everybody is not happy. And we're having people over. We gotta clean that house. But does it have to be? It can be done 2 ways. You do clean the house. Don't get me wrong. But if you don't have that, I got to be better. I got to be better. Yeah, that edge raises everything into a chaotic. You think it's order, but if you look at your kids' faces and you look at your spouses, it's not so hot. They would love to leave.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that experiment, that way. It doesn't have to. You can do it another way. If you just let go of what people will think when they come in your house.
Yeah. And I always say that dealing with the chaos around you becomes light years easier when you're not also dealing with the chaos inside of you.
Big. Say that again. Yes.
Dealing with the chaos around you becomes a lot easier when you're not also dealing with the chaos inside of you. So that's where the calm and the peace comes from. And you can clean your house peacefully, and you can do it without stressing. If you're not fighting something inside of you. So that's the battle that we have to win. It's what my book, Slay Like a Mother, is about, is slaying that self-doubt so that you can show up as a normal, energized person,
I know. That is so true. It's really funny because when I grew up, my mom was a clean freak. You know, that house, every day she vacuumed, every day she cleaned, every day she did everything. But the thing is, I never saw her. You know what I mean? And when she was too busy being that clean. She walks into my house. Now, my house is clean. People say my house is clean, but I'm not like over the top with it. But she'll come in and say, oh, that right there, and that right there, and that. And I could be that person that's going, oh my God, my mother's coming. But I figure, wait a minute, that's not my life. And I'd rather go to lunch with my boys because they're home for the Christmas, or I'd rather go here and do this with my kids, or I'd rather have a movie night. And yeah, the family room's going to be a mess the next morning, but you know what? That's okay. You know, I think we have to figure out what is important in our lives. What are our values? Is it to be is it to live life in a way that we grow, our kids grow, our spouses grow, the people around us in our business grow, and we have a life of fulfillment and fun and, I don't know, experiences? Or do I have to be this perfect person in this perfect mold? You guys, I'll tell you what, we've got a lot of really cool inventions that we're going to give you in this next to help you accept this idea that, my gosh, I'm enough. And the things I'm doing are going to just bring about wonderfulness in my kids' life and everyone else's. But I am not going to be stressing. How's that? You're listening to Magical Moments, and we will be right back.
This is Magical Moments with Elena Chapman, helping you find your ease and betterment. Stay tuned for more of this week's featured interview.
Welcome back to Magical Moments. And I'm speaking with Katherine Wintsch. And we're talking about how that competitive, I have to be perfect, I have to be better, I have to be awesome all the time, how that can really kind of hurt what we're really trying to achieve as a mother, as a woman, as a man, as a father, as a employee, anything, as a business owner, how it really puts our focus in the wrong area. And really, that's what it's about. Katherine, you know, we talked a lot in the first half about this knowing we're enough. And really, that's what it comes down to. When we are happy with who we are, then, well, it really doesn't matter if so-and-so does better at this, you know? And I learned from that. Oh, I actually like what that person did. Hey, I'm going to try to put that in mind. You accept and you exchange ideas, and you don't feel that I have to be better than that person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing that happens is knowing you're enough helps you say no.
Oh, that word.
A lot of things, a lot of people. And because that's really the problem. Like, we think we have a hard time saying no to other people, and we talk about that a lot as women and mothers. But the truth is, we don't have a hard time saying no to other people. We have a hard time saying yes to ourselves.
Yes. That's exactly right. Yeah, because we're trying to prove all the time we can do it all. Yes. We can be that super mom, and you end up on or a super dad. You know, it happens. I see it with a lot with women, but still men have the problem too. And it is that I can do it all, but yeah, we don't put ourselves first. And why is, you know, that sounds, I know people tell me, oh, that sounds so selfish. I'm a giver. They don't understand. You can't give from a cup that's empty.
Exactly. Yeah. So many women all around the world are just running on fumes, just helping other people, and I would say after I went through so much self-doubt and finally learned to turn it into self-compassion, but before that, just never felt good enough. And so always saying yes, always taking on more, always exhausted. And I thought I was helpful to other human beings, and I was but I'm a much better mother, sister, daughter, wife, friend, every employee, boss, all of those things now that I have healed myself on the inside.
So let's talk a little bit about that, and everyone's saying, oh my gosh, I got to accept myself. This is so hard. And it really is not. It really is not. I mean, I can think with the people I work with, because this is big, guys. I have men and women who come who just do not accept who they are. And it really is the crux of every ill. And it is the solution for many, many things. But when they come, they think it's going to be such a hard journey, and it's not. I mean, there are certain steps you take. It's a growth period. Don't you agree, Katherine?
It's absolutely a growth period. It's a journey. It's a practice. You have to practice these things every single day. It's a
realization.
And it is. And I saw a quote the other day that I don't remember it exactly, but to paraphrase, it said, you can't free yourself from a prison you don't admit you're in.
That's like my first book. I said, you can't escape from a prison if you don't know you're in one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that awareness of how you really feel about yourself, how you speak to yourself, that you don't feel good enough. It's like, that's hard for people to admit.
It is. It is. I don't know how did I start? Because there was a time on my journey, I had to accept who I was totally, and I think it was freeing. Didn't you find it? I found when I started, and it was even the first step. Every step brought me as far as I can see, and there weren't that many, and they weren't that hard. It was more of a realization. And once I realized it, then I could stop myself and say, ooh, wait, that is clearly, I am not accepting myself in that moment. Let's step back and redo. Press that button, I always say, that little red button in your mind, and in your imagination say, bop, nope, redo, let's do this again. And let's start doing it where I am registered. But gosh, when I did that, it's like, oh, wait, that feels so free. It's like, weight just lifted off of me.
Oh, at 100%. I mean, when I first started realizing, that I was so unhappy with myself through therapy and lots of other things, books, self-help books, it was such a hard realization. But once I started talking about it, once I started admitting it, I gave a TEDx talk on the topic, and I used that exact word. Somebody said, how do you feel now? I said, I'm free. Like,
free.
That story of me not being good enough is not going to own me anymore.
No more. Yeah. And people, so this is the thing. When you're free, you'll start to see how, and I noticed this, how people who live that way, like the parents, my mother, or other people, are wanting you so much back into it. Like the mother coming over and saying, well, you didn't do this, and you didn't do that, and you didn't do this. Okay. Do you see? But right now I just say, oh, I'll get it later. And I let it go. Before I would have been rushing to pick that up. No.
Yes. Yes, because your self-worth was coming from
based on her
human being.
Yeah, her judgment of me. Yeah. When really inside, I don't need that anymore. Yeah.
It's not your lifeline, and so the other day, I don't know, made some mistake and took my son to the wrong soccer field, like totally messed it up.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
But then I was pulling into the parking lot. We were so late. He's the goalie. I mean, it's terrible. But you know what I said to myself? I said, well, it's a good thing my self-worth is not based on what soccer parents think of me. In this moment, it's not my moment. Like, I made a mistake, but my self-worth used to be dependent on those situations, and I would have felt like such a bad mother and such a bad human being, but I have enough self-worth inside of me that I'm like, Sorry,
I know.
not perfect.
I just told my son, thank God you're not traveling to another state.
Right, yeah.
At least we got the state right.
And, the world, just like your son, going to school in his pajamas, like the world keeps spinning. Like,
Oh, the world
part of the
spins.
soccer team. Like,
And he learned to laugh at himself. And he learned to just, say, hey, this is all right. So what, And he did. He learned. And he grew bigger for it. Not that I would do that on purpose, but I also didn't make a big deal. If I had gone into him and said, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Oh, what everyone must have thought of you. I'm so sorry. That would have set the wrong message. That would have told him, oh, all those people who are laughing at you, they're important. What they think of you is important. And instead, I said, we are so not going to go there. Because if we don't feel like we're enough, it spreads like cancer.
Yeah. And that your children have to see you standing up for your boundaries. And we don't think about this in terms of what we're teaching our children, but they're watching.
It's one of the best things you can teach them.
Yes, and they need to learn by example. So, recently my son, who's in the 5th grade, was invited to participate in cotillion, like this Friday night ballroom dancing.
Oh, fun!
And well, I don't know.
Boys don't think so. Girls do.
I don't want to do it. And so I said, then you don't have to do it. It's
right.
Friday nights. We would have to drive at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, every Friday for like 6 weeks. Sounds terrible. And he didn't want to do it. He said, that sounds awful. And I said, okay, then you don't have to do it. It turns out he's the only boy not doing it, the only child not doing it. But I was like, so then he said, they were saying that I'm the only one. I said, I didn't know that. Do you want to do it then? He goes, no. and he goes, I feel bad for all those boys that their parents are making this. And and I thought, this is a thing that's not meaningful to him. It's a major inconvenience for us. Like, why would I do that to myself? If it doesn't make him, doesn't bring him joy, and it would just be for the image of it. And I was like, that's not the image I want to portray.
No. No.
I'm protecting him and me, and it's okay. But that all becomes easier, when your self-worth comes from the inside, and you fear less what people think of you. You act,
You have nothing to prove. Mm-mm. And I really want people to hear that you have nothing to prove. Because everyone out there is in the same mess you are in. Everyone is striving. Everyone's on a journey. Everyone is on their own particular journey. And everybody makes mistakes. And everybody's learning from them. And if they have a hard time and they're dealing with their own self-worth, doesn't mean you have to worry about yours. You do not have to prove anything. What you're here to do is to just try the experiences, learn from them. That's the best thing you can do. That's the best thing you can teach your kids. Try the experiences and learn from them. Grow from them. That's all we're here to do, Yeah, that's so beautiful. And, that reminds me that I love that story. It just reminded me of a boss I had in my career in marketing and advertising, and he could see I was working so hard and, staying so late and just really working myself into a froth. And he said to me, Katherine, when are you going to stop trying to prove that you belong to be at this dance? Wow.
And I was like, whoa, it really struck me. But it's so, for anyone listening, that can be a powerful realization. And sometimes other people can see it in you before you can see it. But that notion that you're trying to prove your worth when you're already worthy.
You're already worthy. You're totally worthy. Just showing up is being worthy. Then what do you do about it is up to you. Yep. And it's not based on what other people say. And that's what we have to get used to. I mean, a lot of us work for people and we're thinking, well, you don't have a boss. Well, I'll tell you what, I have had bosses. And as soon as I put on that competitive hat, I lost my creativity. And you think you're sharp. You do. You think you're sharp. And the idea is, I've been in that field. And I learned, you know what? No, it's actually when I went back and really thought about it, it's when I let go. When the chips were really down. One time I was conducting. I used to be a choir conductor. And I was actually doing a children's choir, 150 kids. And I had been out because I was pregnant. And I was on bed rest, actually. And someone else was supposed to be prepping these kids because we were doing a 3-choir event, meaning all these 2 other choirs were going to come in and we were going to sing. And then I got in front of those kids because I was the head director. And I was getting them ready to sing the song that everybody sings together, and my kids didn't know it. And I thought, now I could have gone, oh my God, my kids can't compete. Oh my gosh, look what we did. I could have gone on that stress, comparing myself to the other choirs, getting my hair all raised on the back of my neck. But instead, I got really quiet. And I thought, okay, I'm not going to go there. That's not going to serve us. How can these kids learn these notes to the best of their ability so we can perform this piece? I had to get out of the competitive and get into what's better for the kids. How can I get this to be fun that they can learn? Because these kids are not going to go along with me trying to make them better than everybody, and who needs that? We just need to make this a good experience for the kids, but they have to learn these notes. So how can I do that? And in 45 minutes, I got those kids learning that piece. But I had to switch hats. I knew my choir was good. I knew I am good. We don't know the notes. Well, then we're going to just learn them. And it doesn't matter if we got up there and we blew it, but we did our best, then we did our best.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The other thing that you shifted in that moment was you got out of the future.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning like we fast forward to the future and we're like, oh, we're going to fail. Oh, this is going to
Well, that's competitive.
Embarrass ourselves.
Yeah. That fear. Yeah.
And so many of those fears never come true. And so you were able to say, no, I'm going to be right here in this moment, in the present moment, which is the only thing I can affect. And I can teach them to the best of my ability, but you weren't fast forward.
And make it fun. Nope.
Future.
Competitiveness puts you in the future. What if we're not good enough? What if we don't compare? That's all future.
Yep.
So it's getting into the moment with the kids or with the special person in your life or with the boss, and really that's because of that quality, Katherine, that's what made me one of the best conductors. Because I didn't go into the future and I was always present. In fact, I was a troubleshooter. In one of the churches, they would send me out every time someone was not getting along with their choir, which, believe it or not, happens. Then they would send me in to fix the problem. Isn't that interesting?
Well, what's interesting is that our country glorifies competitiveness so much.
Oh, totally. People wear it like an armor.
To succeed. If I'm going to be successful, I have to be competitive. And we believe that, but look how successful that, in that example, how successful you were. And
with not being competitive. Yeah.
Right.
And people can feel that competitive edge. And I'll tell you what, when we learn not to be competitive, then we're willing to collaborate. We're willing to let other people in. And that's where you see your greatest advances. Where two come together, divine comes in. And when you collaborate and you feel sure enough with yourself to be able to share and to grow with, oh my gosh, then you start hitting the high life. You really do. Yeah. You won't believe the magic that starts coming in. Don't you agree?
I do. It's beautifully said.
Competitiveness has its place. You're 100% right, Katherine. Competitiveness has this. We are bred with that from the very start. Oh, my child plays better baseball than yours, and that, or you grow up. Oh my gosh, when I was a kid, we learned our multiple. Multiplying and all that by standing in lines. And I went to a Catholic school, and oh my gosh, I still remember Sister Rita. She would stand up there and she would say 2 times 2. And if you didn't answer right away, you had to sit down. Now, that gives you a competitiveness. And we were in teams. And darn it, I couldn't think fast, and all that pressure. And I did have dyslexia, did not know it. I could not do it. I couldn't think that fast. And so I was always the first one to sit down. And yet, I just thought to myself, this is a bogus game. Why is it all if I stand up or not? What does it matter as long as I get an A on the test? That's what I used to think. But that sets you up.
It does. It does. And what's sad, I think it's sad, is what it took me a long time in my life to realize, is that what are we competing for?
Yes.
What are we competing for? And what we're really competing for is self-worth.
Exactly.
And so all of these external wins are a means to an end. And the end is loving yourself, but you can cut out the middle. Like, you don't have to have those wins in order to like who you are.
No.
And it's just this race to self-worth through this really long and winding and exhausting road.
So when was it that you really opened your eyes? Because you were like traveling all over the place. And all of a sudden, what really woke you up to saying this is ridiculous?
Two things. One, to my point earlier, it never felt like enough. That started to be a little bit of a red flag. Like, I keep achieving the things I wanted to achieve, but I still feel hollow and empty on the inside. And I still feel like I need to achieve more. So that was kind of a underlying drumbeat. But the moment that changed everything was, it was over Christmas break. I'd been home for 2 weeks, off work, and my husband could sense I was a little nervous about going back, and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I'm so worried about being a good wife, a good employee, and a good mom all at the same time." And he said, "Katherine, just be yourself. What is so wrong with being you?"
Yes.
And a voice inside of me said, "I don't like me." That was what my internal response to his question was. And so I chose to get very curious about it. I knew that because I said it, I knew it was true. And I wanted to learn why, with the things that I had and the things that I had accomplished and the life I was living, why didn't I like myself? And that's what started it.
And isn't it funny? Nothing on the outside will give you that I like myself. You have to go inside and do the work. You have to see the beauty inside yourself, which we all have. It's just finding
it. And then any of the external, kudos or attaboys or whatever you're going after, they just become icing on the cake. You know, it's still nice to achieve things and, achieve goals.
But did you really believe it? When you won, kudos,
no,
Katherine, you did beautifully.
No.
No, you didn't, did you?
No. It never stuck. It was temporary. It was like, oh, look, I'm smart, or I've achieved something, or I've accomplished things that, were challenging. It was just so short term. It's like it didn't enter my soul. It just sat on the surface.
God, that's so sad. That really is sad.
Heartbreaking.
And when you love yourself and you get those little awards, you know they don't matter, but you know that that's nice. That is so nice. Yeah. I reached a milestone. That's what I think usually. I reached a milestone. Yeah. That is really nice. And you don't, gosh, when you put so much pressure on yourself when you're competing, when you know you're yourself, you don't put the pressure. You do the work, but it's minus the pressure. And you say pressure puts the edge on it. No, it doesn't. It takes away the creativity. It takes away the freedom of thought and creating. So you're not flexible in a moment. You become rigid because it has to be this way. I wish people could see what it really does to you. But when you're comfortable with yourself, you know you got it. What a feeling it is to have, to feel like, I've got this. I've got it. I can deal with this. And if I don't deal with it, I'll deal with it again. I'll figure it out. I will jump and the parachute will come out.
Yeah, the fear goes away. It's once you love yourself, you don't live in fear that so-and-so doesn't think I'm a good mom, or this, I'm going to fail.
I'm going to fail. Yeah, no.
There
is no failure.
My previous decision-making was based on fear. I didn't want to fail, and so that's why I worked too hard. I didn't want to disappoint people, and that's why I said yes too much. It was all based on fear, where now my decisions are not made on that. My decisions are made based on what's right for me and what feels good, and there's less kind of reverb, back from those decisions.
So what would be a good place for people to start? All right, we've definitely given everyone wonderful examples. So now they kind of know where they're striving to be if they're not there. And if they are there, kudos. Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy for you. But if you're not, I'm still happy for you that you have this new awareness. But what can we give them to get started?
I would say to challenge everyone to write down the last terrible thing that you said to yourself as an exercise.
That's going to hurt.
And get it out, get it on paper. You need to see it in your own handwriting. So that's, a first step. And then if you go to slaylikeamother.com on the homepage, there's a video of women revealing, and mothers, what the last terrible thing they said to themselves was. And I think those two things will be a really powerful beginning for people if you want to get started, or if you need a reminder, But how are you speaking to yourself, and how can you see that other women are doing the same?
Yes. That's really good. Yeah. I would add, you also have to get to a status quo. Meaning and I've always found this to be helpful for my own personal growth. I had to feel what I was, it's an unknown world. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like I can build a model airplane and I put the next piece up there and I see my result. Mm-hmm. You don't have that. So when I really had to find status quos, and for me, getting quiet, being still, not meditating, being still with myself. Because a lot of times, a lot of people can't stand being with themselves. But what is it like? So that moment on Sunday mornings before the kids got up, I would get that little orange, that piece of toast and that tea, and going up back to my bed and just being, not getting on the phone, just being with me, enjoying the sunlight coming into my room, enjoying that time being in my bed and quiet. The dogs would come up and join me, just being, and allow myself to feel the uncomfortableness, and then ask myself, why am I feeling uncomfortable? And start to see, wait a minute, aren't I worth this moment? Why aren't I worth this moment? And keep doing it, because it'll bring you to a status quo of, I'm worth this time. It's the very first step, thinking you're worth your own time. Well, okay, so how can people find out more about you, Katherine?
I would invite anyone to visit slaylikeamother.com, or you can follow us on Instagram or Facebook, Slay Like a Mother, or my personal account is K Wintsch on Instagram.
I love that. I love it. And for all of you out there, Soul Manifesto, check it out. We've got so much going on. And yeah, we're working on you just to get more and more into your soul. What does that mean? That is that self-love. That is that wonderful, hearing that wonderful, good soul in you, instead of that critical mind that tells you awful things. Awful things. Let's forget that critical ego mind. But Soul Manifesto is where we're at. We've got the Inevitable You right now. So check that out, because that is all about the creativity and opening your mind to your soul. As always, guys, Spirit is love. And if we don't love ourselves, we don't love our life, we don't love what's around us, how can we be with Spirit? So start opening up to it. I love you all. Namaste.
This has been Magical Moments with Elena, featuring Elena Chapman. If you missed an episode, download it now on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, CastBox, Deezer, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform. Learn more online at soulmanifesto.com.
Podcasts by Federated Media.